The morning sun rose slowly over the purple mountains of New Jeju. Garam stepped out of his small farmhouse and breathed in the cool air. He looked at his fields with pride. The cabbages were almost ready for harvest. The corn stood tall. The berry bushes were heavy with fruit. His 6 chickens clucked in their pen, waiting for breakfast. Garam was 35 years old. He had lived alone on this farm for 5 years. Before that, he was a soldier. But he grew tired of fighting and wanted a quiet life. The government gave him this land on the new colony world as payment for his service. Another day of good work, Garam said to himself as he picked up his tools. He wore simple clothes, brown pants, a blue shirt, and old boots. His black hair was cut short, and his skin was tanned from working outside every day. He started his morning routine. First, he fed the chickens. Then he checked the irrigation system that watered his crops. After that, he began to pick ripe berries. The work was hard but satisfying. Garam enjoyed the silence. The nearest neighbor was 20 miles away. The closest town was a 3-hour drive in his old truck. Around noon, Garam was kneeling in the dirt, pulling weeds from around his prize cabbages. That's when he heard it, a sound like thunder but sharper and more mechanical. He looked up at the clear blue sky. There, high above, something was falling. It left a trail of black smoke and orange fire. The object was small, maybe the size of his truck. It spun as it fell, coming down fast. No, 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 Garam said, standing up quickly. The falling object was headed straight for his eastern field, where his best cabbages grew. He could only watch as the thing crashed. The impact shook the ground under his feet. A cloud of dirt and smoke rose into the air. Birds flew away from nearby trees, squawking in fear. Garam ran to his house and grabbed his emergency kit, a first aid box, a flashlight, and an old gun from his soldier days. He didn't think he would need the gun, but old habits were hard to break. He jumped into his truck and drove across his property to the crash site. As he got closer, he could see a deep hole in the ground. His prize cabbages were destroyed. The hole was about 20 feet wide with dirt and plants thrown everywhere. In the center was something metal and smoking. Garam stopped his truck at a safe distance and approached on foot. The air smelled of burnt metal and strange chemicals. He covered his nose and mouth with a cloth. "Hello?" he called out. "Is anyone there?" No one answered. As the smoke cleared, Garam could see that the object was some kind of small spacecraft. It wasn't like any ship he had seen during his time in the military. The shape was wrong, more round than the human ships he knew. And the metal had a strange blue-green color. Most of the spacecraft was destroyed. Pieces of metal were scattered all around the crater, but one part seemed intact, a small pod, like an escape capsule. Garam approached carefully. The pod's door was partially open. He used his tool to pull it all the way open, then shined his flashlight inside. What he saw made him step back in surprise. Inside the pod was a creature. It looked somewhat like a cat, but clearly not from Earth. Its fur was blue, not a normal blue, but one that seemed to shift and change in the light, like the colors in an oil spill. The creature had 6 limbs instead of 4 leg-like limbs and 2 smaller arms in the middle of its body. The alien cat was very thin. Garam could see its bones through its skin. Its breathing was slow and shallow. Around its neck was a collar with strange symbols that Garam couldn't read. "You're in bad shape," Garam said quietly. The creature didn't respond. It was unconscious. Garam had a decision to make. He could leave the alien here and call the authorities, but the nearest colonial office would take days to respond. By then, the alien would probably be dead, or he could help the creature himself. He thought about his time in the military when he had seen too many die because help came too late. He had left that life behind, but some lessons stayed with him. "I can't just let you die here," he said, to the unconscious alien. Carefully, Garam reached into the pod and lifted the creature. It was lighter than he expected, probably because it was so thin. The alien didn't wake up or move as Garam carried it to his truck and placed it on the passenger seat. At his farmhouse, Garam prepared the spare bedroom. He put down clean blankets on the bed and filled a bowl with water. He placed the alien gently on the bed and checked it more carefully. The creature was definitely starving. It looked like it hadn't eaten in weeks, yet it was still alive. Something about this alien's body was fighting hard to stay alive, refusing to die despite the terrible condition it was in. "You must be very strong," Garam said, "to have survived this long without food." He tried to give the alien water, dripping a few drops into its mouth, but it didn't swallow. Its 4 eyes, 2 large golden ones and 2 smaller purple ones, above them, remained closed. Garam used his old military radio to contact the colonial outpost. "This is Settler Garam Kim at Farm Plot 327. I have an emergency. A small spacecraft crashed on my property. There's an alien life form. It's alive but in bad condition." The voice that answered sounded bored. "Can you describe the alien?" Garam explained what the creature looked like. "Interesting," said the voice without sounding interested at all. "We'll send someone to check it out." "When?" Garam asked. "This creature needs medical help. We're short-staffed right now, maybe in a week or two." "A week or two? It could be dead by then. Sir, finding an alien cat on a backwater farming planet isn't exactly our top priority. Do what you can for it. We'll send someone eventually." The radio went silent. Garam put it down, feeling angry and worried. He looked at the alien sleeping in his spare bed. "Looks like it's just you and me for now," he said. "I'll do my best to keep you alive until help comes." For the next several days, Garam tried everything he could think of to help the alien cat. He tried different foods, meat, vegetables, even some of the special nutrient paste the government provided for emergencies. Nothing worked. The alien wouldn't eat while unconscious and it wouldn't wake up, yet still it didn't die. Its breathing remained steady, if slow. Its heartbeat, Garam found it had 2 hearts, continued. It was as if the creature had put itself into some kind of deep sleep to avoid dying of hunger. Every day Garam would check on the alien, give it water drops and talk to it. He told it about his farm, his former life as a soldier, and why he had chosen to live alone on this distant planet. "I don't know if you can hear me," he said on the 7th day after the crash, "but if you can, please know that you're safe here. I won't hurt you, and I won't give up on you." That night, as Garam slept in his own room, the alien's fur began to glow very faintly in the darkness, a sign that things were about to change. 2 weeks passed since the crash. Garam continued his daily farm work while checking on the alien cat regularly. Every morning and evening, he would sit beside it, try to give it water, and talk to it softly. The creature remained unconscious, but alive. Its breathing was steady, and sometimes its 6 limbs would twitch as if it was dreaming. On this particular evening, Garam was in his kitchen cooking a simple dinner. He chopped vegetables from his garden and added them to a pot of boiling water. The rich smell of the soup filled the small farmhouse. "Just a simple meal tonight," he said to himself as he stirred the pot. He had gotten used to talking out loud during his years alone on the farm. Suddenly he heard a noise from the spare bedroom. It was a soft thump, followed by what sounded like scratching. Garam put down his wooden spoon and walked quickly to the bedroom. He opened the door slowly and looked inside. What he saw made him freeze in place. The alien cat was awake. It was trying to stand on its 6 limbs, but it kept falling back onto the bed. When it saw Garam in the doorway, it made a hissing sound and backed away, pressing itself against the wall. All 4 of its eyes were open now, 2 large golden ones that seemed to glow in the dim light, and 2 smaller violet ones above them. All 4 eyes were fixed on Garam. "Hello there," Garam said in a soft voice. He stayed in the doorway, not wanting to scare the creature more. "You're finally awake. That's good." The alien cat hissed again, showing small but sharp teeth. Its blue fur was standing up along its back. "I'm not going to hurt you," Garam said. "My name is Garam. You crashed on my farm 2 weeks ago. I've been taking care of you." The alien didn't seem to understand his words, but it watched him closely. Its 4 eyes blinked at different times, which Garam found strange to watch. "You must be hungry," he said. "Let me get you something to eat." Garam walked back to the kitchen slowly. He filled a small bowl with water and put some synthesized protein on a plate. This was emergency food that all settlers received from the colony government. It wasn't tasty, but it had all the nutrients a human needed. Garam hoped it would work for the alien too. He returned to the bedroom and placed the food and water on the floor, then backed away to the door again. "Here you go," he said, pointing to the bowl and plate. "Food and water." The alien looked at the offerings, then back at Garam. It seemed afraid to move while he was watching. "I'll give you some privacy," Garam said. He stepped out of the room and closed the door partway but kept it open enough that he could see inside. For several minutes, the alien didn't move. Then, slowly, it crept toward the food and water. It sniffed at the protein first, then licked it cautiously. It made a face that looked like disgust, and Garam couldn't help but smile. Even alien cats were picky eaters, it seemed. But hunger won out. The alien began to eat the protein, taking small bites at first, then eating faster. After finishing the food, it drank the water in quick laps with a thin blue tongue. As soon as it finished eating, something amazing happened. The alien's fur began to glow. It started as a faint light, then grew stronger until the blue fur was pulsing with gentle light, like waves of water reflecting the sun. "Wow," Garam whispered. The alien looked up at him, seeming surprised by its own glowing fur. It looked down at its body, then back at Garam. For the first time, it didn't look afraid. It looked curious. Over the next few days, Garam established a routine with the alien. He would bring food and water 3 times a day. Each time the alien would eat and drink, and afterward its fur would glow for about an hour. The creature was getting stronger each day. It could now walk around the bee room on all 6 limbs without falling. Garam decided to give the alien a name. "I can't just keep calling you the alien," he said as he brought breakfast on the 5th day after it woke up. "I think I'll call you Isul. It means dew in the old language from my homeland. Your fur reminds me of morning dew when the sun hits it." The alien, now named Isul, tilted its head when Garam said the name. It couldn't speak, but something in its eyes made Garam think it understood that he was naming it. "Isul," he said again, pointing at the alien. Isul blinked all 4 eyes in sequence, which Garam took as acceptance of the name. As Isul grew stronger, Garam began to leave the bedroom door open so the alien could explore the house if it wanted to. At first, Isul stayed in the bedroom, watching Garam from a distance as he moved around the house. But by the end of the week, curiosity overcame fear. One morning, Garam was reading a book in his small living room when he felt something watching him. He looked up to see Isul sitting in the hallway, all 4 eyes focused on the book in Garam's hands. "Do you want to see this?" Garam asked, holding up the book. It was an old astronomy book with pictures of stars and planets. Isul came closer, moving cautiously. It stopped a few feet away from Garam's chair. Garam placed the book on the floor between them and opened it to a page showing the solar system. "This is where we are," he said, pointing to a small dot labeled New Jeju, orbiting the 4th planet from the sun. Isul came closer and looked at the page. To Garam's surprise, the alien reached out with one of its middle limbs, the smaller ones that seemed more like arms than legs, and touched the picture. The limb had 3 finger-like appendages that moved with surprising grace. "You want to turn the page?" Garam asked. He demonstrated by turning to the next page, which showed different types of stars. Isul watched carefully, then used its middle limb to turn back to the previous page. Then it turned forward again. Garam smiled. "You're smart, aren't you?" From that day on, Isul spent hours looking at Garam's books. The alien seemed most interested in the astronomy book, often staring at the star maps for long periods. One night, about 2 weeks after Isul had awakened, Garam was woken by a strange sound from the kitchen. He got up and walked quietly down the hallway. The lights were off, but he could see a blue glow coming from the kitchen. When he reached the doorway, he saw Isul on the floor. The alien had somehow opened the cabinet where Garam kept flour for baking bread. The flour was spilled on the floor, and Isul was drawing in it with one of its middle limbs. Garam turned on the light. "What are you doing, Isul?" The alien looked up but didn't stop drawing. Its fur was glowing brighter than Garam had ever seen before. In the flour, Isul had drawn complex patterns that looked like star systems. There were circles for stars with smaller circles around them for planets, but the pattern didn't match any star system Garam knew from his books. Is this where you're from? Garam asked quietly. Isol looked at him, then back at the drawing. It added more details. A third small circle around one of the larger circles representing a planet with 3 moons. Garam sat down on the floor across from Isol. You're trying to tell me about your home. Isol blinked all 4, eyes together this time. Then it reached out with its middle limb and drew a straight line through the star system it had created. The meaning was clear even without words. Something had destroyed Isol's home. I'm sorry, Garam said. I understand loss too. That's why I'm here alone. Isol looked at him for a long moment. Then, to Garam's surprise, the alien erased part of the flower drawing with its limb and began to draw something new. It was drawing a picture of Garam's farm, with the house and fields. Next to it, Isol drew a small 6-limbed figure, itself. Then it connected the 2 drawings with a line. Yes, Garam said, understanding the simple message. This is your home now too, if you want it to be. Isol's fur glowed a little brighter, and for the first time it made a sound that wasn't a hiss. It was a soft rumbling noise, almost like a purr. Garam smiled. I think we're going to understand each other. Just fine, Isol. A month had passed since Isol crashed on Garam's farm. The alien cat had grown stronger each day. Its blue fur was now thick and healthy, and its body had filled out. No longer could Garam see its bones through its skin. Isol moved around the farmhouse freely, watching Garam work and sometimes following him outside to observe his farm chores from the safety of the porch. One morning, Garam woke up early to the sound of rain hitting his roof. He looked out the window and frowned. Dark clouds filled the sky. The wind was strong, bending the trees around his property. Looks like a big storm is coming, he said to Isol, who was sitting on the floor near his bed. The alien had taken to sleeping in Garam's room, curled up on a blanket in the corner. Garam dressed quickly and went to the kitchen to check the weather report on his old computer. The screen showed a large storm system moving toward his farm. It would hit in a few hours and last all day. This is bad, Garam said. I need to protect the crops and animals. He put on his raincoat and boots. Isol watched him from the doorway, head tilted to one side. I have to go out and secure everything, Garam explained, though he wasn't sure if Isol understood him. You stay here where it's dry and safe. Garam went outside into the light rain. He needed to move his chickens to a stronger shelter, cover his young plants with protective sheets and make sure the irrigation ditches were clear so water could flow away from his fields. It was a lot of work, and the storm was coming fast. He had just finished moving the chickens to the storage shed when the rain began to fall harder. The wind picked up, making it difficult to walk. Garam struggled to unfold the large protective sheets that would cover his most valuable crops. Suddenly, he felt something beside him. He turned and was shocked to see Isol standing there in the rain. The alien's fur was soaked, but it was still glowing faintly. Isol, go back inside, Garam shouted over the wind. But Isol didn't move away. Instead, the alien reached out with its middle limbs and grabbed the edge of the protective sheet. It looked at Garam, then at the plants, then back at Garam. Garam understood. You want to help? Isol blinked all 4 eyes at once, which Garam had come to recognize as a yes. Okay then. Hold this corner down while I secure the other one. Together, human and alien worked quickly. Isol seemed to understand what needed to be done without much explanation. When they finished covering the plants, the alien followed Garam to the irrigation ditches. Isol used its limbs to clear leaves and branches, allowing the water to flow freely. By the time they finished all the necessary work, both were soaked to the skin. The storm was now in full force, with heavy rain and strong winds. They ran back to the farmhouse. Inside, Garam toweled himself dry and gave another towel to Isol. The alien watched how Garam dried himself, then copied the action, using its middle limbs to hold the towel. Thank you for your help, Garam said, smiling at the alien. We saved most of the farm because of you. Isol made the purring sound that Garam had come to recognize as a positive response. That evening, as the storm raged outside, they sat in the living room. Garam had lit a fire in the small fireplace, and its warm light filled the room. He was eating a simple dinner of soup and bread, sitting in his chair near the fire. Isol, who usually kept some distance while Garam ate, came closer. The alien sat down right next to Garam's chair. Then slowly, Isol placed one of its front paws on Garam's hand. The moment their skin touched, something strange happened. Garam's vision blurred, and suddenly he wasn't in his living room anymore. He was somewhere else, seeing things he had never seen before. He saw a world with 3 moons in the sky. The landscape was covered with tall blue grass and strange crystal-like trees. There were structures that looked like buildings but were made entirely of a glowing material similar to Isol's fur. And there were many creatures like Isol, moving around these structures, communicating with each other. Then the scene changed. Huge, dark ships appeared in the sky. They fired weapons that turned the beautiful crystal buildings to dust. The creatures, like Isol, ran in fear. Many fell and didn't get up again. The scene shifted once more. Now Garam saw a small group of survivors boarding a spacecraft. Among them was Isul, looking frightened but determined. The ship took off just as another attack began on the ground below. Then everything went dark, and Garam was back in his living room gasping for breath. Isul had removed its paw from Garam's hand and was watching him with all 4 eyes. Was that your home? Garam asked quietly. Did you show me your memories? Isul blinked all 4 eyes in sequence. A gesture Garam had come to understand meant something more complex than a simple yes. Your people, they were attacked. Your world was destroyed. Garam felt a deep sadness for the alien. You're a refugee. Maybe the last of your kind. Isul lowered its head and its fur dimmed slightly. Garam understood loss all too well. He had left Earth after losing his family in the resource wars. That was why he had chosen to live alone on this distant colony world. He and Isul were both survivors of tragedy. I understand, Garam said softly. I'm alone too. He hesitated, then reached out and gently placed his hand on Isul's head. The alien didn't pull away. Instead, it leaned into the touch, its fur brightening again. A new feeling of connection formed between them in that moment. A bond of shared pain and mutual understanding. The next day, as they were fixing a fence damaged by the storm, Garam heard the sound of an approaching vehicle. He looked up to see a government transport coming down the road toward his farm. They finally sent someone, he said to Isul. The researchers from the Colonial Authority. They're coming to investigate your crash. Isul looked at the approaching vehicle, then back at Garam. All 4 eyes showed clear anxiety. Garam remembered the vision Isul had shared, the destruction of its world, the fear of its people. What would these government researchers do if they found an alien with unknown abilities? Would they treat Isul with care and respect, or would they see it as a specimen to be studied? In that moment, Garam made a decision. Go to the house, he said urgently to Isul. Hide in the storage room behind the kitchen. Don't come out until I come for you. Isul seemed to understand the seriousness in Garam's voice. It ran quickly back to the house, disappearing inside just as the vehicle stopped near the fence. 2 people got out, a man in a military uniform and a woman in a lab coat. They approached Garam with the confident walk of government officials who were used to getting their way. Settler Garam Kim? The woman asked. Garam nodded. That's me. I'm Dr. Nari from Colonial Research, and this is Captain Tai. We're here about the crashed spacecraft you reported a month ago, and the alien life form you claimed was inside it. You're a bit late, Garam said, not hiding the irritation in his voice. I reported the crash 4 weeks ago. Dr. Nari smiled thinly. We have many priorities in the colony. Now please take us to the crash site and the alien. Garam led them to the crater in his eastern field. The remains of the spacecraft were still there, though rain and wind had scattered some of the smaller pieces. The main ship was destroyed in the crash, Garam explained. There was an escape pod, but it was badly damaged too. Captain Tay walked around the site, taking pictures with a small device. Dr. Nari collected samples of the strange metal. And the alien? Dr. Nari asked. Where is it now? Garam had prepared his lie on the walk over. It died a week after the crash. I buried it near the western field. Dr. Nari frowned. You should have preserved the body for study. I'm a farmer, not a scientist, Garam said. It was starting to smell. I didn't know what diseases an alien might carry. The two officials spent another hour examining the crash site. They took more samples and asked Garam many questions about the alien, what it looked like, how it behaved during the week it was supposedly alive. Garam kept his answers vague and simple. Finally, they seemed satisfied, or perhaps just disappointed that there was no alien to study. We'll take these samples back to the lab, Dr. Nari said. If we need more information, we'll contact you. After they drove away, Garam waited until their vehicle was out of sight before running back to the house. He opened the storage room door to find Isol hiding behind some boxes. They're gone, Garam said with relief, and I don't think they'll be back anytime soon. Isol came out slowly, its fur glowing with what seemed like gratitude. I told them, you died, Garam explained. As far as they know, there's no living alien on my farm. He knelt down so that he was at eye level with Isol. This is your home now, for as long as you want to stay. I promise I'll keep you safe. That night, as they sat together by the fire, Isol touched Garam's hand again. This time, the vision was different. Garam saw Isol's people communicating through touch, sharing thoughts and memories directly from mind to mind. He understood, now that this was how Isol's species communicated, not through sound or written words, but through a kind of touch-based mental link. When the vision ended, Garam looked at Isol with new understanding. So that's how you talk. You're not just showing me memories, you're speaking to me in your language. Isol's fur glowed brightly in response, and all four eyes blinked in unison. A deeper bond had formed between them, one that crossed the barriers of species, language, and the vast distance between stars. 6 months had passed since Isol crashed on Garam's farm. Spring had turned to summer, and summer was now giving way to fall. The days were growing shorter, and the air had a cool crispness to it, especially in the mornings. Life on the farm had fallen into a comfortable routine. Garam would wake at sunrise and make breakfast for himself and Isol. The alien now ate a mix of synthesized protein and vegetables from the garden. After breakfast, they would work together on the farm. Garam had discovered that Isol was remarkably helpful with many farm tasks. The alien seemed to have a natural understanding of growing things. Plants that Isol tended grew faster and produced more fruit than the ones Garam cared for alone. The chickens, which had been afraid of Isol at first, now seemed calm in the alien's presence, laying more eggs than before. Most strangely, when Isol touched objects around the farm, they sometimes glowed with the same blue light as the alien's fur. This happened most often with living things, plants, animals, and even the soil itself. One morning, Garam and Isol were in the eastern field harvesting carrots. It was hard work, pulling the vegetables from the ground and filling baskets to take back to the storage shed. But the harvest was good, with carrots larger than any Garam had grown before. This is our best harvest yet, Garam said as he pulled another large carrot from the ground. And I think you're the reason why, Isol. Isol was working a few feet away, its 6 limbs moving with practiced efficiency. At Garam's words, the alien looked up and made the purring sound that Garam had come to recognize as happiness. Then, without warning, Isol froze. All 4 of its eyes widened, and its fur began to glow more brightly than Garam had ever seen before. The alien's body went rigid, and it dropped the carrots it had been holding. Isol? What's wrong? Garam asked, alarmed. He stood up and moved toward the alien. Before he could reach Isol, the alien turned and grabbed Garam's arm with unusual urgency. The touch was different this time, more intense, almost desperate. Immediately, Garam's vision blurred and a flood of images rushed into his mind. He saw his farm, but it was different. The fields were burned, the house destroyed. Then his vision expanded, and he saw the entire planet engulfed in fire. The scene shifted again, and now he was looking at the whole star system. Planets burned one by one as massive ships, similar to the ones that had destroyed Isol's world, moved through space with deadly purpose. The vision was so powerful, so overwhelming that Garam's legs gave out. He fell to his knees in the dirt, gasping for breath. When his sight cleared, he found Isol standing over him, all four eyes fixed on his face with an intensity that was almost frightening. Then, to Garam's shock, Isol spoke. "They come." The alien's voice was rough and strange, as if it was using vocal cords that weren't designed for human speech. 3 harvests from now, Garam stared in disbelief. You can talk?" "Learning. Slowly." Isol's words were halting with long pauses between them. "Important. Must tell you." "Tell me what?" "What did I just see?" Isol lowered itself to sit, facing Garam. Its fur pulsed with light, dimming and brightening in a rhythm that seemed to match its breathing. "My people, special power." Isol struggled with each word. "When starving, near death, can see possible futures." Garam's mind raced as he tried to understand. "Are you saying your species can see the future when you're starving?" "Yes." Isol blinked all 4 eyes in unison. "Why I did not die, in ship, was starving self. To see path, to survival." The pieces began to come together in Garam's mind. "You were starving yourself on purpose? In your escape pod? To try to see a future where you survived?" "Yes." "Saw you. Your farm crashed here on purpose. You crashed here intentionally because you saw me in a vision?" Garam was struggling to believe what he was hearing. "You. Important." Isul placed a paw on Garam's hand again, and more images flowed into Garam's mind. But gentler this time, easier to understand. He saw Isul in its escape pod, weak from hunger, desperately searching possible futures for a path to survival. In most of these possible futures, Isul died alone in space. But in one future, one tiny thread of possibility, there was Garam and his farm. The vision ended, and Garam looked at Isul with new understanding. "So you found me by starving yourself to see the future?" "Yes. But now you're not starving. You're healthy. So why did you just have another vision, and why was it so much stronger than before?" Isul's fur pulsed brighter. "Not same vision, new power, stronger, because of you." "Me? What did I do?" "Fed me, cared for me, made me strong." Isul seemed to be gaining more control over its speech as it continued. "My people, power grows when well fed, after starving, but none ever tried. Too dangerous." "You're saying that because you nearly starved to death but then recovered, your power to see the future is stronger now?" "Yes, much stronger." Isul stood up on all 6 limbs. "Can see further now, clearer. And what I see..." The alien's fur dimmed. "Danger coming. The ships I saw in the vision, the ones destroying planets, are they the same ones that destroyed your world? Same hunters. They follow. Path of worlds. Eating. Destroying." Isol's voice took on a hard edge. 3 harvests from now, they reach here." Garam felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cool fall air. 3 harvests, that's about 3 years in our time. You're saying that in 3 years those ships will reach our solar system? Reach New Jeju? "Yes. But why? What do they want?" Isul touched Garam again, showing him another vision. This time, Garam saw the huge ships up close. They weren't like any spacecraft he had seen before. They looked almost alive, with surfaces that pulsed and changed like the skin of some enormous beast. And they were harvesting, not crops, but the very essence of planets, draining them of energy, leaving nothing but dead rocks in space. They eat stars, planets, life. Isol's voice was grim. "Cannot be reasoned with, cannot be stopped. Unless what? Unless we warn others. Prepare." Isul's fur brightened with determination. In my vision, saw one path, one possibility, where some survive. Garam stood up, his mind racing with the implications of what Isul was telling him. We need to warn the colonial authorities, tell them what's coming. Isul made a sound that Garam had never heard before, something between a growl and a sigh. They will not believe. Need proof. What kind of proof? Can we give them? They won't just take our word for it, especially not mine. I'm just a farmer. And if I tell them about you, they'll take you away for study. They won't listen to your warnings. Not yet ready, Isul agreed. Need more vision, more clear, to show path. Garam looked out across his fields, seeing them now with new eyes. In 3 years, all of this could be gone. Not just his farm, but the entire planet. All of human space could be in danger. We need a plan, Garam said finally. And we need more. Information. You said your visions are getting stronger. Can you control them? Can you look for specific things in the future? Learning control. Difficult, but we'll try. Isul's fur pulsed with effort. Tonight, we'll try to see more. That evening, as darkness fell over the farm, Garam and Isul sat in the living room. The alien had eaten a large meal, bigger than usual, explaining that it needed strength for what it was about to attempt. In past, Isul said, my people only used vision power when starving. Used small amount. To find food, avoid danger. Never tried to see far future. Never tried when strong, healthy. What you're doing is dangerous, Garam said, worry clear in his voice. Yes, but necessary. Isul's fur began to glow brighter. Must see clearer future. Must find way to stop hunters. Isul closed all 4 of its eyes and went very still. Its fur grew brighter and brighter until it lit up the entire room with blue light. Garam watched in awe and fear as the alien's body began to tremble. Minutes passed in silence. Then suddenly, Isul's eyes snapped open, and it reached for Garam with alarming speed. When their skin touched, the vision that flowed into Garam's mind was unlike anything he had experienced before. He saw ships, human ships, fighting against the hunters in space. Most of the human ships were destroyed quickly. But then he saw something else. A weapon or device of some kind built using technology that seemed to combine human engineering with principles he didn't understand. This device, when activated, didn't destroy the hunter ships, but it seemed to drive them away, forcing them to flee. The vision shifted again, and Garam saw a woman in a lab coat, not Dr. Nari, but someone else, working with Isul, both of them surrounded by complex equipment. They were building something together, something important. When the vision ended, Garam found himself on the floor with Isul standing over him, looking concerned. Did you see? The alien asked. Garam nodded slowly, his head aching from the intensity of the vision. I saw a way to fight back, but we need help. We need someone who will believe us, and we need someone who understands science and technology better than I do. The scientist woman, Isul said. Important, must find her. But who is she? And how do we find her? Isul's fur dimmed as its energy faded. The effort of controlling the vision had clearly taken a toll. We'll try again, tomorrow. Too tired now. Garam helped the exhausted alien to its bed. As Isul curled up to rest, it looked at Garam with all 4 eyes. We'll figure it out, Garam promised. Together. That night, as Garam lay awake in his bed, he thought about how much his life had changed. The morning sun rose over Garam's farm as he loaded the last box into his old truck. 3 months had passed since Isul's powerful vision, and they had spent that time preparing. Today was the day they would take their evidence to someone who might believe them. Are you sure about this? Garam asked Isul, who sat in the passenger seat of the truck. The alien's fur was glowing softly in the early light. Yes, Isul said. The alien's speech had improved greatly over the past months. It could now form complete sentences, though its voice still had a strange, rough quality to it. The researcher comes today, the one from my vision. Garam nodded and started the truck. According to the message he had received 2 days ago, a research vessel was returning to check on the crash site. A new xenobiologist named Dr. Gina would be leading the investigation. The name had meant nothing to Garam until Isul had another vision and confirmed she was the woman they had seen before, the one working with them in the future. As the truck bounced down the dirt road toward the landing area, Garam thought about all they had accomplished in the past 3 months. Using parts from Isul's crashed ship and equipment from Garam's farm, they had built a makeshift long-range scanner. It wasn't sophisticated, but it had been able to detect unusual energy patterns at the edge of the solar system, the first signs of the approaching hunter ships. They had also prepared their evidence carefully. Isul had created detailed drawings of the hunter ships and the weapon that might stop them. Garam had recorded data from their scanner and written out everything Isul had told him about the impending invasion. But their most important evidence was Isul itself. They had decided that hiding the alien was no longer an option. The threat was too great. They needed the colonial authorities to believe them, and that meant revealing Isul's existence and abilities. They arrived at the landing area just as the research vessel was touching down. It was much larger than Garam had expected. A sleek silver ship with the Colonial Science Division logo on its side. "Ready?" Garam asked. "Ready," Isul replied, its fur brightening with determination. They waited in the truck until the ship's doors opened and 3 people walked out. 2 were wearing the gray uniforms of colonial security. The third was a woman in a white lab coat, Dr. Gina. She was younger than Garam had expected, with short black hair and a serious expression. She carried a tablet and wore a small device on her wrist that Garam recognized as a portable scanner. Garam took a deep breath and stepped out of the truck. "Dr. Gina?" he called. The woman looked up, surprised. "Yes, you must be Settler Kim. We were planning to visit your farm later today." "I know, but there's something you need to see right away." Garam glanced back at the truck where Isul was still sitting hidden from view. "Something important." Dr. Gina frowned slightly. "Is this about the crashed ship? Our records show you reported that the alien life form died shortly after the crash." "I lied," Garam said simply. "I had my reasons, but now we need your help." Before Dr. Gina could respond, Garam turned and nodded toward the truck. The passenger door opened and Isul stepped out. The reaction was immediate. The security officers reached for their weapons and Dr. Gina gasped, her eyes widening in shock and wonder. "Please don't be afraid," Garam said quickly. "This is Isul, it's friendly, and it has something very important to tell you." For a tense moment, no one moved. Then Dr. Gina raised her hand, signaling the security officers to stand down. She took a cautious step forward, her eyes fixed on Isul. "Remarkable," she breathed. "A completely unknown species, and it's clearly thriving." She looked at Garam with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. "You've been harboring an alien life form for months without reporting it?" "I was protecting it," Garam explained. "But now we need to protect everyone. Isul has seen something coming, something terrible." Dr. Gina raised an eyebrow. "Seen something? What do you mean?" "It will be easier to show you," Garam said. He turned to Isul. "Can you share with her what you showed me?" Isul nodded and stepped forward. Dr. Gina tensed but held her ground as the alien approached. When Isul was close enough, it slowly reached out with one of its middle limbs. "It communicates through touch," Garam explained. "It will show you images, memories, and visions of the future." Dr. Gina hesitated, then nodded. "All right." When Isul's paw touched Dr. Gina's hand, the effect was immediate. The scientist gasped and went rigid. Her eyes widened, and for several long moments she stood frozen, seeing things that only she and Isul could perceive. When the connection broke, Dr. Gina staggered backward. One of the security officers caught her arm, steadying her. "What was that?" the officer asked, concerned. Dr. Gina's face had gone pale. She stared at Isul with new understanding and fear. "We need to get to the ship," she said urgently. "All of us. I need to run some tests." 3 hours later, They sat in the research vessel's laboratory. Dr. Gina had confirmed what Isul had been telling Garam all along. Her instruments had detected unusual energy patterns from Isul during the psychic connection, proving that the alien's abilities were real, not just hallucinations. More importantly, the ship's more powerful scanners had picked up the same anomalies at the edge of the system that Garam and Isul's makeshift device had detected. Something was coming, just as Isul had warned. "If what I saw in the vision is accurate," Dr. Gina said, looking at the data on her screen, "we have less than 3 years before they arrive. We need to prepare." "Will the Colonial Defense Force believe you?" Garam asked. Dr. Gina smiled grimly. "They might not believe me, but they'll believe this." She held up a data chip. "Hard evidence that something is approaching our system. Combined with the readings I took from Isul during the psychic connection, it should be enough to convince them to at least investigate further." She looked at Isul, who was sitting calmly on a lab table. "What you can do, seeing possible futures, it's remarkable. And the fact that your abilities grew stronger after nearly starving to death, it's a fascinating evolutionary adaptation." "My people never fully explored this ability," Isul said. "We only used it in emergencies when food was scarce. No one ever tried to develop it further." "Until you," Dr. Gina said. "You pushed the boundaries of what your species thought possible, and now you might save 2 civilizations because of it." Dr. Gina turned to Garam. "I'm going to need both of you to come with me to the colonial capital. The Defense Force will want to speak with you directly, and will need Isul's help to understand the technology that might stop these hunter ships." 3 months later, Garam's quiet farm had become a military research outpost. Scientists and engineers filled the fields where crops had once grown. Satellite dishes and communication arrays stood where his chicken coop had been. And at the center of it all was a new building, a laboratory where Isul worked with Dr. Gina and a team of researchers to develop the technology that might save humanity. Garam himself had become something of an advisor, helping Isul navigate the complex world of human politics and military planning. It was a role he had never expected to fill, but one he had taken to with surprising skill. One evening, as the sun was setting, Garam found Isul sitting alone on the porch of his farmhouse, the one part of his property that remained unchanged. The alien was looking up at the stars, its fur glowing softly in the twilight. "What are you thinking about?" Garam asked as he sat down beside his friend. "Futures," Isul replied. "So many possible paths now, some dark, some bright." "Do you still see the hunter ships coming?" "Yes. That has not changed. But what happens after?" Isul turned its 4 eyes to look at Garam. "That changes every day. Are we making progress? Will the defense system work?" "Perhaps." Isul's fur pulsed thoughtfully. "But something has changed that I did not expect." "What's that?" "The story of us. It spreads." Garam nodded. News of Isul had indeed spread throughout human space. The tale of a starving alien feline and a lonely human farmer had captured the imagination of people across the colonies. It had become a symbol of hope and cooperation in the face of a common threat. "People need stories," Garam said. "They need to believe that different species can work together, especially now." "In my first vision," Isul said, "when I was starving in my pod, I saw many possible futures. In every path where I died alone in space, your people never knew what was coming. They were destroyed just as my world was, and in the future where I found you, in that future, the one where you fed me, where kindness prevailed over fear, I saw a chance, a small one." Isol's fur brightened. "That chance grows larger now. Each day, more possibilities open where both our peoples survive." Garam looked up at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, survivors of Isul's species might still exist, hidden in distant refuges. And somewhere else, the hunter ships were coming. "We'll be ready for them," Garam said with determination. "Yes," Isul agreed. Together. As night fell over the farm-turned research base, Human and alien sat side by side watching the stars. The future was uncertain, filled with danger and possibility in equal measure. But they would face it as they had faced everything since that fateful crash, together. And in that simple truth there was hope.